Hello, welcome along. So, my name's Ross. Here's some information about me. Welcome to Geordie Intelligence and our second live stream in the Back to Basics video series. Let's get away from this horrible PowerPoint. I hate it. Get to the right screen. There we go. Okay, so what we've been doing this series, this semester, is we've actually been looking at the next stage. So the first piece, we actually pulled everything back together, didn't we? And we started to see just what went on within our data models. We put in some simple DAX. What we're going to do today is we're actually going to go a little bit further. So we start by actually discussing a little bit about modeling and that element of what it is, because there are some consolidations that we need to do. Okay. So the first one, okay, is here. So in our buildings table that we've got, if we remember, we went back to New York. We were looking at New York data in the last live stream, so we'll keep with New York, I think, for this. So this is around the rooftop water towers that you see in all the iconic stuff of New York City. Now, every water tower needs to be inspected once per calendar year, which means we've got a great data set. The nice thing with it as well, that just really screams out for something to do with Power BI, is there seems to be a manual entry component, which leads to all sorts of problems that you can see here. So we've got this massive irregularity of names. Now this is something we've seen professionally with many clients across SAP, across Oracle, across other ERP systems, customer relationship management software, all those kind of things where people are putting in values, even accounting suites. You get duplication of errors because I'll just create one because it might not already exist. So we'll do something about that. We might have a look at doing this later on. Okay, I'm not going to say we're going to do it. We'll see where we get to time-wise. If we don't get to it today, I'll do a video separately and we can discuss how we fixed it or what our options are with it. Okay? But one of the things that we often talk about as we look at analysis is that we want to be able to make things quick and easy and efficient. Now, one of the things that we've got here is I've added a state column. Now I've put this in as a calculated column, and this is kind of against all the rules that I would normally do and how I would say this is what we should do as we're looking to deploy Power BI. Because a calculated column is probably one of the least efficient entities to have within the model. But it's something we need because it's always important for it and always going to be really key for us to be able to quickly get to a list of, well, which buildings are overdue. If you could imagine, if we were in charge of water tower inspections in New York City, it would be nice to know, well, these buildings actually need an inspection. Should we be trying to reach out to them, contact them? Bearing in mind it's a full calendar year and where we are now, March, potentially we're not going to do much about the overdue we probably should do, shouldn't we? The ones that are due, we could be a bit less, we could be a bit more relaxed about, but we might be saying, well, for between January and June, we look at everything that's overdue, and then from June to the end of the year, we look at everything that's due and overdue, for example. The actual realities may vary, but you can see we could actually piece together a workflow to go around with that. As part of that, what I've done is I've written a calculated column. Let's zoom in a bit on this so you can see. Okay, it's nothing special. I will hide that QR code because that's just right in the way, isn't it? So it's really nothing special. Okay, we've simply got something working out what today's date is, and then taking the year value from that and minusing 1, because every calendar year, remember? So what was last year? So this will be returning 2024. And then we're looking at what's the latest inspection for that water tank. Okay, remember that water tank, because some buildings have more than one water tank. So the latest one for that water tank, we will look at and we'll say, right, based on that, as it happened like this year, which obviously is greater than the current year. Well, it can't be in the future, can it? You can't expect these things in the future. Or can you? If that's the case, that's good. If it equals, then it's due, because that would be, it was inspected last year, so it must be due now. Otherwise, it's overdue. There shouldn't be any options around there. That kind of should cover everything. Okay. Now, calculated columns, as I say, if you think through or if you understand what goes on within Power BI and the way it actually processes everything. So the M script will execute, right? And that will return tables. Those tables are then fed through a compression algorithm. The resultant compressed table then has calculated columns derived against, or DAX derived against it. And then again, it goes through a secondary compression. So the challenge with a calculated column is their compression is never optimal because the table is being compressed first. So this is why we say, well, let's try, we should always try and left shift these things, push it over into Power Query. And we could do. Okay, and this wouldn't be difficult. I would quite easily go through, do this. I'm not going to do it because I'm mean like that. I'd like you guys to try, tell me how you think it went. Is it something that was problematic? Was it difficult? But basically it's very similar. What we'd need to do is to identify a max. So you'd probably look to do a merge, bring through, merge it, get the max inspection date for that tank, bring that down to just the year, and then evaluate that against a current date value variable. Yeah? Pretty simple. Sounds easier than it probably is. For the sake of this, it's not going to make a huge difference to us. I'm going to use this, but I know it's not optimal. Okay. Now, we've understood that, haven't we? That we need to think through what we're doing as we structure and build our report packs. Okay. The other thing that's going on, and this is a bit of a debate, this kind of hit the papers, as it were, after we did the last live stream. And the question that's kind of there is, should you create specific measures folders? Now, this is a topic that I think is going to run and run. Now, my initial view, given the person who was raising it, and it was Marco Russo, who I've an awful lot of respect for. They're like, between Marco and Alberto, those guys are amazing. When they speak, we listen. And my initial view is, okay, yeah, he's right, because if you don't have specific folders, it makes it easier, and you can then actually combine them and place them in the fact table, place the measures in subfolders in the fact table, which now that Power BI supports subfolders, as we can see in our stuff. Let's zoom in a bit. Yeah, you can see we've got subfolders. So because we've got these subfolders, then in theory, it shouldn't make such a problem, because a fact table, if it's built correctly, obviously we hide all the foreign keys, don't we? So there's no foreign keys. And then everything else that's within a fact table should kind of be numeric. So as long as there's no reason for your data to be slightly off, it should be fine, right? And then we went and we did some work, didn't we? We looked at TMDL, and we're going to look at TMDL again later. And one of the things that goes on with TMDL is you've got the option to extract the TMDL from your model. And that is where the wheels fell off this idea for me. So we've done this pretty much exactly for a calendar table. Okay, so let me zoom out. Okay, let's go to the TMDL view. Okay, and I'm going to show you this. Okay, so this is a calendar table. Okay, so any table you can drag and drop into the TMDL view, creates a new script, tells you what's going on. Now let's have a look at what we got here. So we've got information telling us what it is, information about all the columns. Really good. We've got kind of the type of summarization that's there. We've also got any additional sort by. So if it's sort by a different column, we've got those in there as well. It flags that this is a date table. Kind of brilliant, everything's awesome. And then we get down to this. Okay, so right at the bottom, we appear to have all the M. So the extract will pull the data production information as well, which then is a problem. So if we want to make this idiot proof, we would need to say, right, you extract that and you remove those steps from it, or that section from the TMDL. So you just keep the section that relates to DAX. Okay, that's fine. But it's a step to remember. The steps to remember often don't happen. So I'm really not sure, because it's really made it awkward and made it difficult for me to say, well, definitely that was right. So I went back and I did some more research. So why is this being pushed? And kind of Marco mentioned it when he was on his video that he released. And what he said was, this is for Copilot, that Copilot and helping Copilot is for this, which then honestly, big rabbit hole going down it. So let's have a quick conversation about Copilot. Let's do that now, okay? Because I think this is something which isn't going to go away anytime soon. So it's actually really good timing, probably, isn't it, as well? So right now, Fabricon is kicking off today in Las Vegas. I'm expecting announcements about Copilot. I'm expecting announcements about Fabric. I am, fingers crossed, really hoping that we're going to get Fabric per user announced this week. But for this Copilot piece, what's actually going on is Microsoft are asking people who are going to use Copilot for Fabric. I refuse to call it Copilot for Power BI since it's dependent on Fabric licensing. Okay, so Copilot for Fabric requires an F64. Now, as part of that, what Microsoft are doing, bear in mind this is all still in preview, is they are asking you as a consumer to simplify your model, to remove extra data from it, to do lots of things with it, and kind of really simplify it so that effectively Copilot gets a bigger hit of real-world customer data or customer modeling techniques. Now, I really don't know what to make. I mean, is this that Microsoft are wanting to use our modeling experiences to say, well, this is actually what a Power BI model is, which of course they need for Copilot to work effectively in a modeling landscape? Or is something else going on? And I don't know. Okay, I'm at the point now saying I really struggle. One of the things that especially causes me problems is that what we've shown, what we want to do, what works, what I've seen professionally works really well for businesses and where they get the biggest ROI from their Power BI environment, is that we make the model cope with as many areas of the business as possible. That leads to quite complex models, to put it lightly at times, but the important thing is that that's the right way to do it, because that 1 to 5 models existing within an organization is much better, because the value proposition of each model is significantly bigger than having 30, 40 different models. Not to mention you've got 30 or 40 different things to test and validate and make sure are actually working effectively. I'm gonna leave it up to you. You guys decide what you think, but I'm not convinced at this point. So, okay, let's have a look at where are we. Let's get to the next step. Okay, so measures tables. That's the bit we were going to talk about, wasn't it? Right? So in this, we've got a measures table, and we're going to keep a measures table in this report pack. Okay, we've got a couple of errors in it. Okay, in terms of overdue and build is overdue, and that's to do with the calculated column we've put in. Okay, but I thought it's important for you to see. I wanted you to see how this works. Okay. So if we come back here, zoom back out, I'm going to close all these scripts, partly because I can't remember which one of these is the one there. Okay, we'll leave 2 because it doesn't let you close them all. But I'm going to bring in this table and drop it there. Okay, so you've seen I can drag this table in of measures, it's not a problem. Let's close it again. Okay, and let's delete it. Okay, and here's right, delete from model. Okay, so we've deleted the table. Suddenly we've got, I've got no measures, what am I going to do? So I'm going to come out of here. I know I've got blue Peter moment. I have this, Control A, Control C. Okay, so this is our measures table as in TMDL. So I've got it in Visual Studio VS Code. Okay, let me just get our report back up. We simply say, right, create a new, Control, paste it in, apply it, and hopefully it all works. Phew. It's always difficult doing live demos when you do these things and hoping, oh, is it going to work? Okay. So it's come through and we've got these ones that don't work. So we need to go to a different view. Let's go to the DAX view, not the DAX view, sorry, it's the table view. Let's expand our table measures here and we can see if we have a look under buildings, buildings overdue. I'm just going to change this to be the column name that we actually have for our calculator column, state. Okay. Okay, it's going to think about it. Go, yeah, well done. Okay. And then that is that. Now the other one that wasn't working is working now. That's fine. Okay. So we have a way of doing it, don't we? We can actually start to look and see that there's a way of bringing data content between it. Now, again, this is a measures table. The argument is clear, don't do it. But I think this ability to drag and drop and not have all sorts of other artifacts with it outweighs the, oh, Copilot's going to struggle with understanding the model. Yeah, let me know down below what your thoughts are on this, because I think it's important that we kind of get to that point where we understand a way forward here. Okay. So what we're going to do, what are we doing next? So we've got our measures table, we've discussed the whole idea of a fact. The secondary one, yeah, we'll cover that later. Okay, so what are we going to do with this? Because one of the things we want to do is be able to do things like time intelligence, isn't it? And time intelligence requires you to be able to, do a lot. Now, the way you do time intelligence within Power BI is you create DAX measures, you do this, you do that. But that takes time, doesn't it? And it takes skill as well. So you need somebody who knows what they're doing with their DAX measures, is confident to go beyond like the basic aggregations. Sorry, my earbud keeps falling out and that's what I'm using to monitor what's going on with this. So what's the solution? What do we do? And the answer is we use the external tool of Tabular Editor. So I've got Tabular Editor installed. We use Tabular Editor 2.0 with this channel. There is Tabular Editor 3.0 or 3 point something something something, but you have to pay for it. And I've always said I'd love to do stuff with paid plugins and stuff for Power BI on the channel, but I think it's not appropriate. Okay, happy to have that discussion, but I think for us, we stick with these, and then that allows you to kind of understand what's the basics we can get through. If there's a use case for something else, you can have that fight in your office. By all means, get in touch. Geordie Consultant will happily help you. So let's open Tabular Editor, click the button, it'll open up on the other screen, bring it down. Here we go. Okay, Tabular Editor connected, already to our table structure, very useful. What we need to do is we expand the tables, right click on them. We're going to create a new calculation group. Time intelligence, that's double L. There's nothing worse than doing these things when you're there. Okay, and I've made exactly the same mistake that I did when I was doing the other things. Right, let's make it smaller. Right, there we go. Okay, so calculation groups. A calculation group will appear as a folder within your Power BI navigation pane. You then have calculation items which are hidden effectively, but they have, your table will have one column, and that column will have this name. So name of name. It's sucky, isn't it? So let's change that. So I've clicked on name. I'm going to click on the text box by name, and we'll give it a name. Intelligence. Okay. And then you see we've got these calculation items. So we're going to right click on calculation items and create a new one. We're going to call this current. Now this is best practice that you have a current one. And this is going to be selected measure, open brackets, close brackets. Okay. So the way a calculation group works is that you assign a measure to it, and then it will say, right, this is now the selected measure, whatever that value is. And it will then say, right, we're going to use this, run through all the DAX expression for it, and then any other calculation items will do exactly the same. So what we need to do is we start and we create multiple calculation items, all referencing a selected measure. Don't need to, there's other things you can do. If you wanted to have like hard-coded values, you could, but selected measure. So right click, new selected measure, month to date. Okay, so annoying. MTD. Now, when we first did this, we did total month to date. So total MTD, open brackets. And we could do that. So we could do that. We could say total MTD selected measure. Okay. Selected measure, open brackets, close brackets, comma. And then you need to tell it where the dates are. Okay. Calendar date, close brackets. Okay. I'm going to mention Marco Russo and Alberto Ferrari again. Format DAX. It's not DAX unless it's formatted. Format DAX is baked in, so we're going to click Format DAX. Hopefully it's not going to make any changes because I can write DAX. Okay, so we've got month to date. I'm going to right click, quarter to date, QTD. We'll do it the other way this time, should we do it? So let's go calculate, open brackets, selected measure, dates, quarter to date, open brackets, calendar date, and close that. Okay, so the first route we used was total month to date, so total MTD, and we kind of put some of this in. This is the full syntax of what that does effectively behind the scenes. So what it's doing in this case is we're calculating that, but we're using it against the quarter to date values that we've got. Okay, click this and no doubt it's going to say you've done it completely wrong. It does, it puts it all in one line. I knew that was happening, but yeah, writing it's still easier to write it as multiple. Okay, we'll click OK, and then let's do the last. Let's do year to date. Okay, new one, year to date. Okay, so year to date is going to be, I'll tell you what, let's be lazy. Total YTD, open brackets, selected measure, calendar date. Okay, so we've got that. Hit the thing, yeah, click OK, great. So we've done all that. So we've now prepared within Tabular Editor the changes that we want to make to our model. So the final thing we need to do is to push that back into the report. or into our semantic model. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Save. Okay, you see all the little exclamation marks disappeared and it's all gone, which means I've written everything right. If I hadn't, it would kind of they would stay, and I'd know, oh no, I'm terrible. Okay, so if we go back to here, what you can see is there's pending changes now. Okay, so what we're going to say is let's refresh now on this. Let's refresh now on this. Next measure. Okay, everything's now ready. Okay, so we did the TMDL. It said, well, you need to do some stuff. A couple of refreshes to do. There we go. We've now got time intelligence here. Okay. So what we can do is we can go, let's create a new thing. Okay, and we can see, well, where's inspections? Okay, so bring in inspections. As we can see, there's 56,000 inspections. We can put them on by date. Okay, and then what we could say as well is let's time intelligence. Okay, and this is going to be, let's make this a table, so it's much easier to see. And we can see kind of what goes on. Right, looking at the really old stuff, it's kind of a bit ropey. There we go. Okay, so we see. This is terrible. We should really change it, shouldn't we? We should make, let's say, so date offset. Where's date offset? Date offset. There we go. On this page, less than 0. Okay, so let's make it for today. So we can see here. That's much better, isn't it? We can actually really see what's happening. So it goes up to 16th of February, and we can see the progress through it. So we've got like the current, so what happened on that day, the month to date, what's happening in that month to date, so we could track that month to date. We've got the quarter to date period, and we can also see the year to date. So that's really easy, works very well. Okay, again, TMDL can be your friend. So if we went to Edge here and ignore the news, I apologize. Should have done this beforehand, shouldn't I? Okay, in our GitHub, in our Power BI 101, you can see we've got some TMDL scripts. So our time intelligence TMDL, which you could download and use, you can see we've got the core ones that we had there, but we've also gone a lot further and put in some quarter over quarter, month over month, those kind of things. So you can copy all those, put them in, execute them, and it'll build and it'll work for you. Be easier for you even still if you bring in our calendar, and we've got calendar TMDL now as well as the core functionality. So you can do that just because it means our date columns definitely align, so there's no, oh no, they're different. Okay, so this could be a great starting point for you in your business. So you can bring in time intelligence, you can bring in that. Awesome source. Okay, so we've got our time intelligence, and we've also managed to put in some TMDL and really explore just how much we can do with some simple things. And those are then portable, aren't they, between different models? Because if you download the calendar script and things like that, which, by the way, my advice would be, okay, a few things. Probably download our normal sample first, like the source, and then connect that to a data flow in a public area that you are going to share with everyone in your business, okay? Because that should be the cornerstone of what you do. You can by all means then go through and finish setting it up, extract that TMDL and send that to people. So if you're going to create a new Power BI report, use this for your calendar. TMDL view, paste, blur. Okay, because that way they're going to reference your daily refreshing data flow, which is always going to be up to date. You've got your calendar, you put all your business logic, all your business rules into that calendar, and they're all tied then into your TMDL script. In theory, no, I'm going to stop there. Okay, we'll stop there. You can then obviously, as a secondary piece, be to share the time intelligence, TMDL, as well. So people can bring both time intelligence and calendar into all their models that they need without having to really stress and strain and learn an awful lot of DAX, because some of the more advanced concepts can be a challenge. Okay? So we've got those. Now, we were going to talk about field parameters as well, because it's important that we understand field parameters and really what goes on with them. So, field parameters are very useful in that they allow you to make elements of your report content configurable by the user base. So your users can come in and access content without having to learn or be able to completely redevelop the report. What does this mean? So in the context of this, it's not a huge amount, I'll be honest. There's not many measures that are going on. I've kind of done some inspections, yes or no. But what we can also do is we've got lots of other areas, so we can bring those all in. So we'll go through and we'll create a field parameter for that. You can also use, instead of just looking at measures, you can use fields. And you can then select, well, which field do we want to see this by? So you could do something around a chart to look at it. Well, is it by date, or is it by month, is it by, say, borough? So we'll have a look at that as well. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Should we start with the first one? Let's start with fields. So if we go under modeling, see we've got new parameter here. Let's zoom in a bit. Okay, we've got new parameter, fields. Oh, that was complicated, wasn't it? So we're going to create a new field parameter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, let's create it from here. So we want dates, month, year, and then lastly, let's also bring in borough. Okay, I'm going to give this a name. Field to use. You can tick or untick this add slice to this page. I'm going to leave it ticked for this one so you can see. So what it does, quite literally, create some code. I wish you could write this from scratch. You can obviously write it from scratch, but the application doesn't process it yet. At the time of writing, you have to firstly go through this. Once it's written, you can modify it manually, but it has to be, there's a setting behind the scenes somewhere that flags this is a field parameter table. And that's what you can't flag elsewhere. Okay? So we've got this. So what it means for us, as I say, is once again, let's come out here. So just like we have our time intelligence as a table, field to use is another table. Okay, and we see it's got field to use as the option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring field to use in, and then I'm going to bring inspections in. In DAX measures, sorry, my bad, I'm just trying to do this. Inspections. Okay. And let's make that this, and I will zoom out here. So what we need to do is we need to make sure we've got one thing selected. Okay, so let's see. I've picked the wrong thing, haven't I? No. Let's use this there. Why has this gone wrong? What have I done? Do that, pick that. There we go. Okay, so you're doing a demo. I'm going to go wrong. Okay, so what we can suddenly see is we have the ability, don't we, to kind of say, well, what do we want to look at? And it automatically updates your chart. Again, based on what we're doing with this, the value isn't huge, but if you can imagine for your business, you could have this show it by product, show it by country, show it by this, show it by that, and you have the ability to pick and choose. There's nothing to stop you putting multiple charts and field parameter sets on the page. You can even use just one, but have it selected differently and have your, let's do it this way. I'll tell you what I'm going to do is let's try and see if we can make this look a bit better. Let's go with year on here, let's go 2024. Okay, so we have this. Control to select both of these, Control C, Control V. So we've duplicated that. Okay, now under here we're going to edit the interactions. That doesn't affect that. That doesn't affect that. Likewise, that doesn't affect that, and it doesn't affect that. So this is going to affect this. So we can pick month, year, and those there. Okay, so we can start to see you could actually make this do quite a lot of legwork for you across your reporting landscape, because you can make users be able to work through and pick what it is they want, see what they want to explore. If you had multiple measures as well, which, as I say, when you're just doing rooftop water inspections is a bit, but we can simulate that. What you can do as well is create a new page here, just for the sake of this. I'm going to come to modeling, new field parameter, and this time under our DAX measures and general inspections, you can see we've got lots of these. So I'm going to just tick all of these. Okay, so these are all the subcomponents of measures, or of the inspections, sorry, measures of the inspections. Go on. Okay, so we're going to click OK. And again, we've got the slicer on. You can see, wow, there's an awful lot more there. What you can do is we can start to use this and then go through and say, right, we've got that. Let me clear this. We're going to say, oh, I called it parameter. Ugh. Measure to show. Okay, just going to call it that. I'm going to call that measure to show again. Okay, now we can go, let's create, sorry, let's just go with this for now. And let me come out here. Right, sorry. So we'll pick one of these, or some, or, well, we don't need to pick one. We can go drop this on here. Let's go to our year. Oh, I should have done it wrong again, haven't I? Why do I keep picking these instead of the year? Okay, let's go to inspections. It's good to know it's me who's messing these up. You can tell it's a demo, can't you? So we're going to remove that. No, we didn't want that, did we? We wanted... What did we want? Yeah, we needed the period, didn't we? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. This is so much easier when you can cut. Okay, so let's go month, year. Drop month, year on there. And then let's drop measures to show on there. And suddenly we get this come through saying, right, here we go. So this works. What we can see is we've got some real problems. These percentages really should be percentages, so we can do that. We can go back to the DAX query view. Could have sworn they were. Expand general these. PCT. So we've got all of those. Why is this not letting? Where's the thing? Am I on the wrong tab? Oh, it's going to be one of those weeks, isn't it? Here we go. Right. Sorry, on the wrong tab. Right. PCT. I do know exactly what I'm doing, but it comes across that I don't, which is always good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Format for these is going to be percentage. And let's go with 0 decimal points. Okay, so we've got that. If we come back here, you see these switch to percentages, which is the important thing I wanted you to see. So your field parameters can have different number formats. Now, because we've got it this way, it would be nice to start to say, well, let's break these down by different things. But we could say, well, let's see all the alls, okay, or let's see issue ones. We can pick multiple ones and tailor what we need. So we could actually start to build up our report page, and if we needed to explore or do anything, it's all baked in without me having to go and recreate new report content. So I can quite easily define what I need. And depending on what you want to do, you can choose to say, well, I want the slicer on the page. You could choose to say, well, I want the slicer off the page. So what we can do is we'll remove this. Okay, we could put the slicer filters on this page. And you can see, we can say, well, we just want to show events all. Okay, so it would work. You can do that. In theory, you could have multiple pages with different sets of these kind of, and the filter hidden, so that it's just, this is the events side, this is the other side. And actually, yeah, the world is your oyster is kind of the same with this. There's so many differences and nuances to what we could be doing within it that it's too difficult to kind of really get in there and say, right, this is what you have to do. Okay? So, now the fun gets to begin. I actually found out we've got time. Just check the time. We've got time. We've covered field parameters. We've covered this. Excellent. There's a lot covered. Don't forget, leave your comments down below. Tell us what you think. And we'll keep going with this. So, the challenge that we've got with this data set is that really all of these are written, there's subtleties in them. So we've got Metro Group, we've got the Metro Group Inc. Lab, certified laboratories, you know, is that right? And what we did to actually make this work properly was we used Power Query within Excel. So we used, we connected Excel to our source. Let me get this. Where is it? Where is my? Here it is, isn't it? It's not this. This. We'll find the right list from here. Okay. So let's see, water towers. It's this one. Documents. See, we do an awful lot here, don't we? Lookup fix, support data. Okay, let's download this. Okay, so this is in, this works. Okay, I haven't set this up to refresh. It's easy enough to go in, refresh it. It's one of those where, do you want to automate it? Do you not want to automate it? I'm not fully sold either way. Okay, let's come through to here. Okay, so our tested by, we've got all the values that come through and all the values that we've normalized. So you can see you've got all the different ambient group Inc. ones, and you can see we've just said, well, this is ambient group. Likewise for the inspections. Okay, so we've got some new ones that have come through that we need to work out where they go, but it's available. Okay, it's not difficult to do. So what do we do? How did we do it? Let's go and click data. Okay, because I think this was one of the strangest solutions that we've built in a long time, and yet it works really well. So go through here. Is it asking me to log in? It's not going to give me a window. Don't know what it is. What do you need? Excellent. That's what we love to see. Information's needed. Can we, is this going to, let's hit edit, right click, edit. Is it going to open? There we go. Okay. So, continue. Yep. That's what it needs. Okay. So it's this. Just going to tap to ignore. It's public. Not sure why it's not letting me pick anything. Please don't ignore normally in cases with these things. In terms of this is public data that we're downloading. Now what's happening is, and we will get into this, let's zoom in a bit on this so we can see. Right, now if we go to view and we see the query dependencies, this will help. Okay, so what's happening is we're going to New York City to get the data. We're loading it into a blank table, just this rows, okay, because we're going to then split it into two. So let's just pull that data together. Then what it's doing is it's saying, well, what's in the Excel spreadsheet? Let's combine that with the data that's come from New York. So we're doing a merge in, and then we're writing it back to Excel. So we're opening up, reading up the Excel table, and effectively we're just adding the new rows to the bottom of the Excel table. But what it leads to is us having two sets of columns. Yeah, so we have like a lab name, which comes from the New York data, and we've got the tested by, which is a normalized set. And it means that we can actually really fix those duplicated column or duplicated values that you get across all your data sets. Now I've looked at the best way to do this, and like we can use Dataverse, we can do this, we can do this, there's lots of things we can do, and we've done it in our single pane of glass stuff where we actually set this up, and it emails me to say, well, these are the ones you need to review. But that was quite a lot of legwork for something that kind of, once it's done, it's done. In a lot of ways, this Excel's format or this Excel way of working is probably the best that I can come up with, even though it really sucks that it's Excel based. So let's review exactly what goes on. Okay, let's bring this over here, just, yeah, so we can kind of, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we can see the steps. So our source, let's click on source. Okay, again, it's rows. We're going to remove the other columns. So we just have lab name, remove duplicate values from there. So we've stripped it back. And then we've got this source to step. And this is effectively saying, get the tested by table from Excel. Once we've got that table, okay, we're going to set the right data types. They're all there. And then we're running a merge query step. So if we expand this, this is kind of one of those things, often it's not immediately obvious and it doesn't look great here. You see it doesn't work. You just have to kind of understand the text. Let's see if I can make this visible quickly and easily for you. Here we go. Right. Okay. So we've taken, merged together the remove duplicate step, lab name, with the change type, lab name. Okay, so we're merging together lab name and lab name. Okay, and you can see this leaves us then with this add-on. So we expand that, and what we're going to keep is just the tested by. Right, so effectively, the lab names are being removed. So if the lab name was removed, it would effectively be removed, and we would lose the new value. And we're doing the same with the inspected. So what it leads to when we come out of here is two tables. And because these are all derived from, let's clear the filter on here. Okay, because these have all come from the same data source that we've got for the main report pack, we can use this as the data source that then reads through and then produce a dimension based on that. And we can feed everything in. Okay, we could turn around and say, well, we want to put in an ID on here and do other things like that. If you really want to, you could. You could then fix all that in MScript. Or, as I say, create a new dimension and join this inspected by firm to it. And then you've got that one-to-many working effectively. And your ID is this. The issue you'll have is the blanks. That's the only thing I'll say. Okay, the blanks always cause problems with that, so you need to think through what you're going to do. You might decide to hard code and say, well, blanks we're going to replace with unknown, or the like, but I will leave that up to you. Okay, you could even say, well, we're going to put an ID in for that, you know, like 9999, whatever, if for the blanks. There isn't something that you need to definitively do. It's just be aware that you're going to have to think about what that solution should be. So that works very well. The other thing that we've got in here, and as I say, I went through and I was looking at some of the older stuff that we've done. Zoom out there. Here we go. Okay, and one of the things we talked about, and it seems to be disappearing a bit, and I'm not sure what to make of it. So I've got it in here still. Okay, and I'll be putting the TMDL for this as well as this file up on GitHub at the end of this session. So if you want to go and have a look, you can. By all means, you know, go through, check and see what you think. But what it means is we've got this overdue percentage. Now this is a KPI, and it's a true KPI in Power BI sense, but you can't do KPIs within Power BI, is kind of the problem. So we can bring in this, and we can bring in status. Okay, we can see status is 0, and we could then say, well, let's bring in borough. Okay, and this is going to tell us what the overdue percentages are per borough. Okay, which is all based on the current values, and that's what that building state is doing. Otherwise, you'd have to go and calculate it fully. Now, if we went through and we said, well, we want to calculate it year over year or do stuff like that, we could easily do it. And this is one of those things. Is there a value add for doing it that way? Now, let's see. If we went to, let's create a table. That's not state, is it? We didn't want state. We wanted, it was state we wanted, wasn't it? Did it go? No, let's bring in state, sorry. Okay. So Power BI will deal with KPIs where you can effectively say, well, this is what it's going to be. We've got a logic set to it. But the way you can do it, is the only way you can do it is within Tabular Editor. So again, we have to go back to Tabular Editor. And again, I'm not sure, are these going to be discontinued? Is anything happening? But there doesn't seem to be any other way of doing the functionality that this does within the tool. So I'm kind of I don't know. Under here, we're going to expand here. We're going to expand our measures table, DAX measures, and we can see down here we have under general inspections or buildings. It's under buildings. We've got overdue percentage, and then you can see we've got a KPI here. So this is actually seeing a lot more about what goes on. For there's the status expression for it. You see we have a target expression, and you see which is telling us, well, so the target expression tells you what measure does this associate with, which is this overdue percentage. We've got the status, so what is the state of it? And it's kind of like numeric, -1, 1, 0. And you can work out then actually how you want to, what you want to present with it. So some of these are odd, they don't necessarily all work, like a lot of the facey ones don't work, which would be nice, smiley faces, sad faces. But you can put in things like traffic lights, that works quite well. Let's see, let's find the traffic lights, yeah. Traffic light single, okay. And then again, as always, you need to hit save, bring it back, and you can see now these are showing something. That was always the problem, that it was just didn't like what we were showing. So you can actually then build those in, and you can do the similar stuff with the trend for it as well, but obviously you need to kind of put some time in, and potentially with this it's not going to work. But you can build these KPIs and then they make them visible within your report content. And it does open up that whole discussion about what actually should happen with KPIs, and what do KPIs mean for a business, and especially for a data-driven business. So one of the things that they do is they break businesses. Okay? All too often we see and we watch KPIs that are in the green drive bad behaviors because they're heading either down or up, depending on how you do stuff, but they're heading towards being yellow or amber. Right, it's red, amber, green, so heading towards amber. And as they head towards amber, people start to panic because they don't want it to go amber. But the reality is, as long as it's in green, isn't it? It might be right at the bottom of green, but it's green. That's normal. So it's one of those where we talk to clients, we talk a lot about, managing your KPIs and understanding what they are. So this KPI functionality can be really useful because it allows you to make sure that you're showing it's green. It's green. There isn't a number, it's green. And potentially that helps you remove some of the toxicity that can come with those. So again, let me know down below what you think. It's important to understand, is this something sensible? Is this something you think, just no way do we want to ever do this? But these KPI functions can actually really help doing it. And again, because you can now use TMDL, these are coming in with TMDL. You saw me create the table, they're now there, TMDL has placed it in. So it's worth being aware that this might be worth revisiting and thinking through, well, are we going to go all the way down the road that Ross discusses, where he says, do you know what, from like your C-suite, like your CEO, CFO, those people, potentially all you really want from C is like kind of 3 lights. It's green, it's amber, oh, it's red, right? I'm heading out the door, it's red, I'm running away. But them seeing the value, the actual number, versus them seeing the state, can have a very different view on actually what's going on. As you are like an operational person, you're saying, right, we're doing this, I'm checking what's going on with the team. Yes, by all means, it makes sense. But there's nothing worse for team morale or team performance or for business performance than having senior leaders starting to just go, well, we're heading towards amber, we need to do something. It might be there's nothing to do, but if you are at the point of saying, well, we need to do something now, should you be changing amber so that it's further up or further down, depending on how you want to talk about it? Because we have to be aware of what we're doing within our organization and the behaviors that we drive, is all I'm going to say. Yeah? Still with us? I hope so. All right, let me zoom out of here. Let's go back to, there's me. Sorry, just let me get this back. Oh, I really should use a different monitor, shouldn't I? Okay. And we'll do this. I do know what I'm doing. Okay, so I think that's it, isn't it? I've covered an awful lot today. I mean, as always, leave your comments down below. Get in touch with Geordie Consulting if you want us to consult and work with you and really help bring your business to the next level. What we're going to be doing, as I say, with the Back to Basics series, is we're going to carry on. We've got some maps to look at, we've got shape files to look at. What can we do with map shape files? Really important things to get into. And there's some other things as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I haven't got them written down here, but I know there's a lot that we're working on. Don't forget to go to GitHub, download the files. Okay, for each week we're going to place the Power BI file in there. If you're wanting to follow along, download the week before one and then kind of work through, and it'll go through. We're trying to be as consistent as possible. So this file I started with with our week 4 live stream file, and we'll keep working forward and get you to that next level. If there's anything you want to see in terms of, you guys didn't show us that, get in touch. If you don't tell me, I don't know. For now though, stay safe, take care, ta-da.